Hey, welcome everyone. Thanks for being here with us today. Today I'm back with Burton Kelso, technology expert. Burton, good to see you again.
Hey, Tim, good seeing you.
Absolutely. Hope you've been doing well. Hey, so what are we talking about today, Burton?
Yeah, we're talking about COVID-19 scams. And the unfortunate thing, whenever there's a major crisis, whether it be national or global, cyber criminals are always going to take advantage of that opportunity and try to scam people. There's a lot of misinformation that goes on during national and global crises. So cyber criminals count on that and say they come up with a variety of ways in order to trick people.
Yeah, it's really a shame to see, isn't it? Usually we see people's better selves come out during crises like these, but we see folks on the opposite side of the fence as well.
Right. And the unfortunate thing with COVID-19, there's so much misinformation out there. So, and it's such a wide scale. So it's easy for cyber criminals to just sneak in there, uh, put information that's out to trick people in order to get access to their money. That on top of just technology being confusing, it's really easy to trick people.
Yeah, and I guess we're probably more vulnerable than ever at this point because we've been used, a lot of folks have been used to being out at their offices where maybe they have some cybersecurity steps put in place by their IT department or folks like yourself. But now we're home and it probably opens up a whole new avenue of attack for these folks.
It does. Like you said, most people are under the umbrella of the IT company, but working at home, you just have to take whatever information that you can get via social media, normal news outlets, just any source, and you have to get through the mess to figure out which is going to be the best advice to follow. So
Very good. Hey, so I'm curious, Burton, what sort of, are there some specific cyber attacks or scams that you've seen that we should be aware of?
yeah, there's a list of about 4 major scams that are going around. Now, most of these scams usually come in the form of phishing emails or phishing text or even phishing phone calls. And if you're not familiar with phishing, it's not Opie and Andy going down by the old watering hole to actually fish. Phishing is the act of trying to get important information from people, and it usually comes in a form of an email or text or phone call that acts like they're a person of authority. So it may come from your bank, it may come from a mailing service, an online retail. So you just have to really be careful what types of emails that you're receiving and phone calls that you're receiving, and make sure that they're legitimate. And more importantly, that you're not handing out important information to just anyone who calls. So I think our first scam that we need to talk about is called the sextortion scam. Now, the sextortion scam's been around for several years now, but it's got a new twist with COVID-19. You still get an email message from a cyber criminal who's obtained your password from data leaks or data breaches that have occurred. So that is going to put you an alarm initially because you're like, well, how did they know my password? The unfortunate thing about the rest of the email, it goes on to say that they've watched you watching porn on your computer, your laptop, or device, and not only that, that they're able to track your information. So if you don't pay the ransom, the cyber criminal claims that they can track your GPS location and infect not only you but also your family members with COVID-19. So this one can be pretty scary.
It is scary. Holy smokes. So what should the response be if somebody gets an email like that? What should they do?
Well, if you get an email that has your password listed in the subject line or in the body of the email, you need to change the passwords for all of your online accounts immediately. Um, Large-scale data breaches occur constantly. So it's important that you stay on top of data breaches if you can, but anytime that you suspect someone has access to your password, you need to go and change your password immediately. So that way cyber criminals can't use that password to get access to other online accounts.
Yeah, hey, so I'm curious. I'm not sure this was on our agenda to talk about, but I'd appreciate your opinion. What is your take on password managers like LastPass, like others out there? Are you pro or are you con on those?
I'm pro for password managers, and I think LastPass is a very popular password manager, which is safe and secure. But another thing people can use if they don't want to use another brand of software like LastPass is just to allow your web browser to save those passwords. Your popular browsers such as Safari, Microsoft Edge, Mozilla Firefox, and Google Chrome all have the ability to allow you to save your passwords. So the key is that those passwords are stored on your devices. So you want to password protect your computer and devices. But at the same time, when you allow your password to be saved within your web browser, you have the ability to create different passwords for all of your online accounts. And then you have one place that you can go to where you can view all of those passwords. You have the option to print them out. But the most important thing is that you have a password keeper and that you're keeping different passwords for all of your online accounts. Because if you don't, you can fall for what's called credential stuffing, meaning that a criminal gets access to your online password via data breach or the dark web, and then they begin to use your credentials, such as your email address and your leaked password, to log into your online accounts. And that can give them access to your bank, your streaming accounts. You can also get access to even security accounts like for your Ring doorbell or your webcams or video cams in your home. So it just opens up a whole host of things criminals can access. So it's very important that you take the proper steps to save those passwords.
Makes sense. Yeah, I've used LastPass for several years. I'm a fan. Has saved me writing down everything, trying to remember it. So it's been good.
Yeah. And the good thing with that is that people always think that that information is floating on the web. But the important thing that everyone needs to remember, those passwords is, if you're using LastPass or even you're in your browser, that's stored on your device. So unless you give your device to someone, they're never going to have access to that information.
Yeah, makes perfect sense. So what else? What's another scam that we should be aware of?
Another big scam is the medical scam. So you get a text or an email or phone call saying that you have a loved one that's in the hospital with COVID-19. And in order for the facility to proceed with treatment, the criminal will ask for money in order to help save your family member. So this can come into play and affect people or trick people that have loved ones in other cities. So if you don't maintain regular contact with, say, grandma or grandpa, or even you with your son who lives in New York, if you get an email, you may jump at the opportunity like, oh no, I have a loved one who's ill. Let me make sure that they're well. So it's really important to counteract those phishing emails, is that you, especially in the COVID-19 phase, stay in contact with your loved ones so that you can find out what their health is in order to make sure that you know that they're well, and then also set up a system in place so if something happens that they have a way to contact you, or you have a system set up so that you can get them the assistance they need rather than falling for a scam email or a call.
Makes sense. And Burton, does social media come into play with this particular scam? Is that how some of these criminals find information about relatives, because maybe they find that you're connected to your grandpa who lives halfway across the country, and on Facebook, that sort of a thing?
That's a good possibility. A lot of these scams are just kind of, we're going to send out a bunch of information and see whoever bites. So that's why you see phishing emails, because you can obtain just random email addresses and send out a message hoping to trick people. But more sophisticated cyber criminals, once they get a little bit more information about you, then they can get on social media to get more personal details about you, such as a relative's name, or like you said, their location. And then they can tailor make messages that are geared towards you. And that practice is called rose phishing, because it's a personalized phishing message that's to you in order to have a more complex way of tricking you and giving up your personal data and your money.
It gets more difficult all the time to protect ourselves from these, because cyber criminals, in my experience, from the phishing activity I see, are becoming way more sophisticated. It used to be that I'd get emails, phishing emails, and it was obvious. This was a cut and paste job. It was a really rookie sort of a thing. There are some emails that come now, and it makes me do a double take, because I'll say, this looks like my bank. This looks like my credit card company. I know it's not, but boy, they get pretty good at this sometimes.
They do. And so experts like myself always recommend that people get into the practice nowadays of what's called becoming a cyber liar. So you can share details, but it doesn't necessarily have to be the proper details. So if you're an entrepreneur or someone who wants to connect with people and share parts of your personal life, you don't always have to be honest. Just fib a little bit and become a cyber liar, because the details that we share on social media can definitely be used against us. So if you start to fudge some of those details, you're still sharing part of yourself, but at the same time, um, you're not giving out too much information so that criminals can use it against you.
Makes sense. So I think we've covered two. You said I think there were four primary scams you were interested in sharing with us about today. What's the third?
Well, the third would be app scams that you need to watch out for. So there's always a COVID-19 tracker or some type of app that's designed to help you keep track of what's going on with the COVID-19 or just coronavirus in general. So be careful of the apps that you download on your smart devices, because most smart devices like your iPhone and your Android devices can avoid viruses by simply not downloading malicious apps. So look at the reviews before you download an app and make sure that you're downloading stuff that's legitimate. And if you're looking for COVID-19 information, it's better to go directly to the World Health Organization's website or look at the CDC's website or download their official app in order to keep yourself and your family safe.
Terrific. So I think that brings us to scam number 4.
Yes, charity scams are very important to watch out for. So there's all sorts of sob stories on the internet, some true, some false, of people asking for money. So these can come in the forms of fake emails from a charity touting that they need information for COVID-19 help. And they can also come from individuals too that set up GoFundMe accounts looking for people to donate money to their cause and of course scam them out of their money. So before you donate money to any cause, always make sure that you do your research to find out about the nonprofit or the organization or individual asking for money, to make sure that they're from a legitimate source. Because once you donate that money, it's really hard for you to get your money back.
Absolutely. So it sounds to me that the overarching message that you're sharing with us today is give some consideration. Don't act impulsively. Take a few beats, step back, do some research, and make sure that what you're dealing with is really the real deal and not a scam.
Right, because most of these scams are socially engineered, which means that cyber criminals create them in order to elicit an emotional response from you. So if the email is designed to put you in panic mode so that you react as opposed to thinking. So it's always important when you get a message in, it's touting that there's the threat, that you take a moment to step back. Sometimes you need to go to Snopes at Snopes.com or find an expert, and I kind of know one, and ask if if it's a scam, if it's real. So always take your time when receiving correspondence via phone, text, or email, and make sure that it's coming from a legitimate source.
Yeah, terrific. Again, Burton, thanks so much. Terrific advice. I've really enjoyed doing this series with you.
Thank you, Tim. It was my pleasure.